Africans hate black Americans, firstly, I would want us to have a proper conversation around that topic. Now, I am sure, I have heard a whole lot of conversations about this. I have seen comments on social media from our brothers in America, and they seem to have lots of reasons, lots of explanation to believe these things, that they are not loved by people in Africa. But it's important that we have a proper conversation to understand what is going on, to understand where we're coming from. For example, who are the caliber of people that say these things, that drive this kind of narrative, this kind of divisive narratives? Because the only continent that has a black race that doesn't have racism is Africa. You understand? And these divisive comments are very dangerous. I would never hear such comments from someone like Martin Luther King. I would never hear such comments from Nelson Mandela. I would never hear such comments from Malcolm X or Louis Farrakhan or even Muhammad Ali. So who are the kind of people that drive this narrative? Because it's important that we have a proper conversation around this. I mean, there are many Africans in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Cameroon who worship the likes of Jay-Z, Beyonce, Drake. You may say he's half black or whatever. Drake, 50 Cent, Tupac Shakur, and the rest of them. So where is this conversation coming from that they are not loved? I don't want to invalidate their feelings, because it's very, very important that we understand where are these things coming from. But I feel, for example, I'm going to read there was a particular question I saw on Quora, and even the lady's response was a bit elitist. Yvonne Orji was asked a question by Charlemagne the God on why she feels, I think she said, the question is, I'm going to read that out now for you guys. I think the lady quoted Yvonne Orji's answer, and I'm going to read it for you guys to see. She said something like, Charlemagne the God asked her a question, like, I'm trying to get it, guys, just give me a minute. It says, Charlemagne the God asked her if Nigerians do look down on African Americans. Yvonne Orji replied, it's not like we're looking down. I can't speak for Africans, I can speak for Nigerians. Nigerians are a proud people. If we are not in our purview, we don't see you. Because I used to have this from African Americans. They don't know anything about me, but they will be like, you are from Africa. The question is, I don't want to support this angle. Yes, Nigeria are a proud people. There's a difference between being proud as a culture and also being condescending. Nigerians are not condescending people. And I don't think you should be condescending to someone of any skin color generally, basically. So, because it is important that we correct these stereotypes, saying things like Africans don't like Americans, black Americans, basically. These are our brothers and sisters in diaspora, and it is supposed to be our own duty as Africans to welcome them back home. I mean, Ghana and a lot of African countries are even doing things like welcoming programs, asking them to come back home, come and visit the motherland. You can buy up real estate, invest in motherland. That is the closest thing to your origin. So this question of Africans not liking black Americans is a dangerous thing, because let's look at the background quickly. We have two separate history. Yes, sadly. Those in America, our brothers in diaspora, suffered something called slavery. They had a slavery background. Most of them had to fight to be citizens. So the trauma is different. I have seen conversations where the claim is that Africans say that we are lazy, Africans say that we are entitled. It is important that even the Africans who move over to America also be a bit empathizing. They should understand where these guys are coming from. You do not have the history of slavery these guys have. Again, it is also important that the black Americans remember that they are also Africans. Let's excuse the fact that Africa is still going through a sort of self-development, a sort of self-recognition. It's still trying to even recover. I'm trying to let dear American brothers and sisters, I'm letting you understand that even your brothers back home in Nigeria, in Ghana, and in all of these African countries were also victims. While we have our ancestors, our brothers and sisters who were taken as slaves, back here in Africa, there was something called colonialism, where the British, basically, the British, the Belgians, the Germans, the French, most of these European powers took over African lands and lorded over them, imposed a kind of administration where they taxed the locals, where they, imposed their own system of governance, exploited a whole lot of human resources, be it human, be it natural, took over there to develop their own lands. So, I'm letting you guys understand that we both, on the different sides of the seas and oceans, need to extend grace to ourselves. We don't need that divisive politics, because guess what? Some of the colonial legacies right now in Africa are still division. When the British came, they met tribes that were unique to themselves, tribes that have their own identity. But when they came, they turned these tribes into states, into political entities unique to the European system of administration. So you can have someone who was just a Nupe man, a Hausa man, an Igbo man. Today, because of post-colonial identities, you can now have them all merged up into one country as Nigeria. And these guys are fighting themselves back here in Africa. They are trying to understand themselves in this new, the British left Nigeria in 1960. It's about over 50 years or 60 years already. So these people who are supposed to be helping our brothers in the Americas, bringing them back home, are still struggling to find their feet. There's a whole lot of tribal conflict still happening because the system of administration these British guys left is what I would call a time bomb. They just came, saw the tribal guys living in harmony, and just gathered all of them together and made a country. Most of these guys are already having border disputes. So you come and impose them into a nation. And this is not just happening only in West Africa. There are many parts of Africa where the legacies of colonialism are still messing people up to today. So when these people, that's why most of them are actually leaving the country as well. Most of them are going to America seeking for greener pastures. So I think it's wrong to take the opinions of these people who leave Africa to fend for themselves in America and make that the general opinion of all Africans. It is wrong. If someone who leaves Ghana goes to somewhere like the UK or America to work and sees a black American, I don't think that person should call the American lazy, because you don't know where they are coming from. While you experience colonialism, they experience a different kind of regime, which is institutional racism. Because after the Abraham Lincoln kind of, revolution that happened and blacks were given citizenship, there was still a whole lot of prejudice that was institutionalized in the system, so that the African American, because most of them don't even want to call themselves African American again, because Africa is now something everybody wants to run away from, which is sad. But I'm letting you guys know that these are all divisive politics. You understand, guys? No Nelson Mandela, or is it Muammar Gaddafi, who will call, none of these guys will say they don't like black Americans. For example, Nigeria was one of the countries that supported the emancipation of the South African people when the Anglo-Boers, that is the guys that the white guys in South Africa came, dominated. Even their part of racism was crazy. They brought apartheid, separation. So guys, it is important that we don't play this divisive politics, because it is only Africa, it's only the black people that don't have a superpower. The Asians have superpowers. There's China, there's Japan. The whites have plenty of superpowers. There's America, there's UK, there's Germany, there are lots of power, France. So it is important that we now come together and be invested in Africa. I am not saying that the black Americans should start fighting our battles, but I am saying we should understand that we are firstly one. Because if you look at how Africa is forged right now, you will see that even the leadership is suffering. The people are so divided that along the lines of religion, along the lines of tribe. In fact, the British, most of these colonial powers did it in such a way whereby it is going to be very difficult to emancipate Africa if the people don't do it themselves. Because if you come with a solution right now, the next tribal guy is looking at you, suspecting you, thinking you're about to plot some kind of tribal domination. This is a kind of disease the continent is still healing from. And there's still the media. There's the media part of it. There's still the media that is making a whole lot of people think Africa is this jungle. There is this part of the media that many people still think Africa is a continent. There is still this part of the media that makes Africa feel like violent destination where people should not come to. Even our own brothers who are Americans, who are black Americans, also think this way. They think, oh, Africa should not. They are also helping us reinforce the racial stereotypes. Oh, Africa is a zoo, blah, blah, blah. So, these are not the kind of people you should be listening to. I listen to a whole lot of Farrakhan. I've listened to a whole lot of Luther King. I've listened to a whole lot of Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, even Michael Jackson. These guys are sound. They understand the divisive politics. So I will not listen to one regular guy on social media who will just say Africans don't even rate us, or they say, some of them will say they don't even fuck with us. You can't use the opinion of a few African immigrants, of a few, because I know that there are a whole lot of sound, enlightened Africans who know that the future of Africa is in unity. I don't know if you guys are understanding what is going on here. For us to be united, for us to have power, for us to have recognition, we need to firstly deal with self-hate. Solve the self-hate. Because you see, let me tell you what is unique about how the African was defeated. The African was defeated in a different way, which is very unique. These guys didn't only come for our land and our resources. They came for our mind. They came for our mind. We have been told that the color is not good enough, the skin is not good enough, that we are not good enough, that our gods are not good enough, that our people are not good enough, that our women are not good enough, that our faces are not good enough. So our women are wearing wigs, our men are doing things that, fighting themselves. In America, for example, the system has made it in such a way whereby the average African American male is destined for jail. It's an institutional oppression to subdue the African race. In Nigeria, even with all the degrees our graduates seek, the system is designed in such a way whereby they cannot flourish. The young Nigerian must maybe try to move abroad or something like that, pay for electricity. They don't get electricity. They have to do their roads themselves. There are lots of crazy things that is happening here, and all we have to resort to is say things like Africans don't love themselves, black Americans don't love us. These things are divisive, they are petty. They are very petty, guys. Let's have proper models. We need to search for knowledge. Let's listen to proper. I don't think it is wise for a random rapper to just say Africans don't like us. What kind of rapper is it? I've not heard a Jay-Z say something like that. I've not heard a Joyner Lucas say something like that. I have not heard. I even think there was a time they were trying to also misinterpret Burna Boy. I mean, Burna Boy's mother in a BET award ceremony came out and said, Black Americans, remember you were firstly Africans. Go to all parts of Africa today. A lot of Black Americans are coming down there for, vacations, and they are welcomed with open arms. So where is this narrative coming from? It is coming from ignorance. It's coming from self-hate. The graces we extend to others, we don't extend to ourselves. Remember, guys, for Africa to be respected, we need to be one. We need to elect good leaders. We don't have that now. That is why a George Floyd can be killed and America is not even sanctioned. Imagine if there was a black power that sanctions people that mess with the African body in all parts of the world. But you see, the colonial system that left Africa came with something called new colonialism, a new way to control the African mind and the African resources. So, what does it mean? It means that at the end of the day, if our people leave and try to elect good leaders, the good leaders don't serve us. They don't serve our interests. Let's awaken our minds. All these things are divisive politics. Everybody is exploiting Africa. Every race is exploiting Africa. Every race thinks Africa is evil. Every race thinks Africa is poor. But guess what? One thing they never admit is they're always coming to take. They're always tapping. They keep taking. The Asians are taking. The Americans are taking. The British Europeans are taking. Everybody is taking. But guess what? They don't want to have anything to do with Africa. Look at how the policies are made all over the world. It is designed in such a way to frustrate the African. Our passports are not powerful. Our currencies are not powerful. Even our leaders are put in positions where our people are put in positions where they have to elect the wrong leaders. The rich few in Africa are oppressing the poor. The poor themselves have, the rich have, or the elites in Africa as well, have weaponized poverty in a way that the poor have to look up to them. So they make wrong political decisions, elect wrong leaders. If you talk, they use tribal, whatever. People, oh, he's trying to be tribal, and everybody stays idle and stagnant. Think Africa. So guys, I am not sure I will see Louis Farrakhan say, they don't like me, the Africans don't like me. Who are these Africans? Who are they? How many African presidents have you heard? We listen to Jay-Z here. I am not invalidating your statements. I'm just letting you guys cool. Next time when they say these things, or when somebody, if it's a black American or an African that says these divisive statements, correct them. Let them understand they don't know themselves. We need to be one. We are the only race that is so divisive. We are so divisive. And that is why we are easy to defeat. There's a whole lot that has been messed with our minds. So guys, please and please, let's consider coming together to rescue ourselves. Let us be smarter. Let's educate ourselves. For those in America, read about your motherland. I don't even want you guys to even read about the motherland. I want the motherland to also be responsible for its own revolution. For you guys over there, we know that there's an institutional racism, but your destiny does not have to be you. There are lots of people doing well. Your destiny does not have to be breaking down the family unit and the system into, multiple baby mamas and multiple baby fathers and absent fathers. So we can do better. Africans, we need to do better. We don't have to elect leaders that are dying, that are sick. We don't have to be tribal. We have to come together. We have to review these constitutions these British people left because they are not empowering us. These are smart ways we should think, guys. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Like I said earlier, my name is HR, and I hope we've put this matter to rest. Africans don't like Americans, black Americans. That's a lie. I mean, Dave Chappelle is there. There is Kevin Hart. There's Michael Blackson, who is even African as well. there is a whole lot of line up of African Americans we know. Eddie Murphy. These cultures are even celebrated so well in Africa, and even copied as well, and it inspires a whole lot. Let's just extend grace to ourselves. Let's love ourselves. Let's love ourselves so that we can build a black power, a black superpower. Imagine. Wakanda is a beautiful nation, but it might not be very realistic, but it's a good inspiration. Let's do better, guys. Please hit the subscribe button and let's start a new sense and way of thinking on the Persuasion Network. Cheers, guys.